starting at 13 years old, restaurant businesses, the bellhop businesses, and cutting grass, just doing anything and everything I can do to stay busy, but also put some cash into the pocket in my bank account.
I love bookkeeping.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the I Love Bookkeeping Show. I am your host, Ben Robinson, and I'm excited to be with you today. We got a great guest. He's only got one flaw, which I'll reveal here in just a second. But he was born and raised in Destin, Florida, FLA, where spring break happens every single year. He went to the University of Alabama, and therein lies his flaw. He says that that's the team that beat Georgia in the national championship. And so I almost didn't ask him on here because I'm a big Bulldogs fan. Go Dogs. Oh. He has 3 kids that are ages 1, 5, and 7. He's married to his high school sweetheart. He's been in accounting for most of his life. Took a detour, he said, for the last 5 years, maybe trying to find his soul as a Crimson Tide fan, something like that. But now he owns and operates multiple businesses, one of which is his bookkeeping business. He also has one called Be My Shopper, and then Combi Keg 30A. And then, of course, his bookkeeping business is called Books by Schmidt. So welcome to the I Love Bookkeeping Show, Kevin Schmidt.
Hey, Ben, thank you so much for having me. I am very excited to be here. Thank you for the grand introduction.
Well, that's right. And just for those of you who know, we actually have a camera where Kevin and I can make signals and cuckoo eyes and things like that to each other if we say something that we shouldn't. So I'm looking at Kevin, and he freaking wore his University of Alabama shirt just to rub it in a little bit more. So thank you for that. But I want to kind of drill down here on something in all seriousness. One of the things that you said in your intro that you wrote out to us is that you consider yourself a hustler. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think my entire life, probably most of my life since I was younger, I've always been on the move. I've always been trying to find something to do. A lot of that comes from my parents, my dad, keeping me busy with checklist of all the things I have to do. But I just always wanted to create. Really all comes down to money at the end of the day for me. Multiple streams of revenue is kind of what I've always wanted to try to create for my life and my family. So hustling my whole life, working jobs starting at 13 years old, restaurant businesses, the bellhop businesses, and cutting grass, just doing anything and everything I can do to stay busy, but also put some cash into the pocket in my bank account. And that's just carried over into my adult life now with multiple businesses, like you said. I like to stay busy. I like to have fun. And I just like to have new adventures and just get out there basically.
That's great. I mean, and it's one of the marks of somebody who's successful as an entrepreneur is being that hustler in the way that you defined it right there, because none of this is given to us. There is no days in which you can just be lazy unless you're off, right? But you do have to be that. You'd have to have that hustler mentality and what we also call grit. So that's good, man.
No laziness in my part. And then with the 3 kids, especially with the youngest one, it's very active world over here in Destin. And so I feel like I'm always hustling, basically.
Yes, you have to be. That's the season. So tell me, before we dive into kind of the bookkeeping business, you've got, is that Combi Keg or Combi Keg? How do you say that?
Yeah, so that's Combi Keg 30A. Combi is the nickname of a Volkswagen VW van. So that's a new business that we're getting involved with. It's basically a Volkswagen van decked out to dispense beverages of your choice. We're gonna put some. It's got 6 kegs in it, so we're planning on putting a little bit of beer in there, more so than anything, and renting it out to weddings and events and parties. And it's got TV in it, and it's just a good time basically, which is kind of what we're all about. And me and my best friend, childhood best friend, we partner out there together, and we're pumped about that one too.
Oh, that's awesome! I've seen pictures of the van, and man, that thing is sweet. My daughter's having a graduation party from high school, and I would love to have it up here. But she's only 18 and her friends are too. And B, it's a long ways from Atlanta to Destin, Florida. So
We'll see.
yeah, that
Maybe
would
I
not
can
be
make a
good.
special trip and we could pump sodas and
Yeah. So,
Kool-Aid and sweet
yeah.
tea.
All
We
right,
got a
Tommy
six pack
boy.
of I got a 6 pack of beer. I mean
Yeah,
soda.
soda. Yes. All right. So we digress in quoting
Sorry.
Tommy Boy here. Maybe we can get back to it.
Yeah.
And then your other business is Be My Shopper, and that's kind
Yeah.
of a personal. So if I want to be really lazy on vacation, I can just call you, and when I get to my
Yep.
vacation destination, there are my groceries, right?
Exactly. Be My Shopper. It's a grocery concierge service. It was actually started roughly the same time of Instacart and Shipped. But we're just local, homegrown here. And like you said, we shop groceries. We put it in your beach house and you check in and it's ready to go. So we started that. Family started about 2012 and that's been going this whole time. And that's been going on in the background of me working in accounting and working on my 5-year hiatus in education while I'm also doing a little bit of bookkeeping on the side. So it's all been kind of a culmination of all going on at the same time. So
Yeah, that's good. You definitely are a hustler. So let's talk about bookkeeping. How did bookkeeping play into the mix here? Because
yeah.
obviously, serving liquor on one side of things, bringing groceries to people on the other one. How does bookkeeping fit all into this mix? Oh, you're drinking Chick-fil-A right there. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's a redeeming quality that you have right there.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. No, but how did bookkeeping fit into it?
Yeah. So, I grew up, business minded, and as we've just been talking about, math was always a favorite subject, numbers, accounting. My dad is CFO by trade and been in that whole business his whole life. So I got involved working with him early on, end of high school, college, things like that, interning. And that's where I first started my full-time job, defense contractor. I was doing the accounting there and did that for a number of years. And I enjoyed those processes, enjoyed working in the corporate world and doing those things and just taking care of numbers and audits and just all the fun stuff that comes with accounting and bookkeeping. So on the private side, not the public side, no interest in that. But I had some personal things going on at one point or another, and it was time to maybe leave there and do something different. And my whole life, I've always enjoyed working with young kids and adults. I mean, young kids, teenagers, young adults, and volunteering. And I went back to my high school, was always volunteering there. And my wife was actually a teacher at the time. So I said, hey, why not get involved with education? I get to work 9, 10 months out of the year. I get summers off. I get holidays and Christmas breaks and spring breaks. And this sounds fun. Let's do it. And
Yeah.
so I did it, and I was teaching for a few years, number of years. I actually even got a master's in education, and was going to do some administration. And because my whole personality and mindset was, I can't just teach. I need to do a little bit of other management stuff or something in the school. And so that was going on, and during that time, we had Be My Shopper, and we were running that on the side, mainly spring break and summer. And that was growing year after year, and doors were opening with that. And I started thinking, maybe I could take that and build it more full time. Go to the concierge business. So I said, let's maybe find something else that I can do. And so I started searching and Googling and what can I do, and obviously I had the background, the accounting, and did some bookkeeping on the side. And so why not use what I'm good at, what I like to do, and maybe try to have a little bit of supplemental income when I leave my full-time benefits job and take my grocery job full-time. And so I decided to try to get some bookkeeping clients. A lot of research. I come across this guy with this goofy voice and a silly looking face, and then
I don't know who you're talking about here. You're breaking up. You're
yeah.
breaking up. Can't hear you.
So, and that was kind of long winded, but that's how I got to the bookkeeping point, and I can continue going. But, at the end of the day, bookkeeping is full time for me now, both on a pay scale and time scale. And the Be My Shopper and the Combi Keg and things like that are still going to be on the side now because after a little bit over a year of leaving that full-time benefit job with teaching and education, I have just grown astronomically and have found success and great relationships with people and clients and friends. And so it's, that's my full-time gig right now, basically.
That's incredible. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
this time last year, because it was almost this exact time last year at the mastermind at my house. It was May
Yes.
2nd and 3rd
Mm-hmm.
of 2018, and you had to take off of work to come to that, I believe, if I remember correctly. Or they'd already fired you because you were a cameraman. I can't remember, but one of those
So
two things.
I was very busy. I was no longer working full time, but
Oh,
I had
okay.
a new client at the time, I think, and we were just starting that
Yes.
week, and I was having to get in and out. But yeah, I was busy while I was there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you find Bookkeeper Business Launch? I know you said you stumbled across this goofy guy, but how did you
Yes,
find us?
you
Was it
know,
an internet search or?
yeah, no, I think it was in my newspaper. Don't you do ads in the
Mm-mm.
newspaper? Or no, I was just kidding.
No, no. I
What's
was
a
like,
newspaper? No,
actually, a great place to do
yeah,
advertisement right now is
yeah.
a newspaper.
It was Google. I mean, just ways to make money at home or bookkeeping, and I was really geared towards bookkeeping and accounting and how bookkeeping from home and how can I start a bookkeeping business. And I got a couple clients I'm already working with, but I don't really want to have all these friends and family locally clients. How can I take my skills and search across the entire US or world and find clients and grow a business. And so Google brought Ben and Bookkeeper Business Launch. And I think I took 15 pages of notes on my legal pad watching a few videos. And I'm like, that's just like the introduction. And I got all this stuff. And there was no thinking twice about it when I signed up for BBL, Bookkeeper Business Launch. So that's how I found you. Thankfully, I did, to be honest.
Yeah, we're glad that we got you. But so you didn't have any skepticism there. So, what happened? So walk me through. So you joined
Sorry.
BBL, and as we
Yep.
always talk about, it doesn't work for itself. It's not a set it and forget it type of thing. So what
Mhm.
happened after you invested in BBL? What was that like?
Yeah, so I invested in BBL while I was working full time still. And so that was going on, because I was trying to make that plan for making the move. What could I do? So I found BBL, signed up, invested instantly, and I basically just jumped straight in, head first into the deep end, basically, and started watching and absorbing any and all videos that I could. The curriculum that was taking it in. I had the little binder I created. I had the notes section and all my stuff set up, the checklist and all that. And, there's the recommended, steps that you should take. And I was just trying to do it as fast as I could because I just had to get all the information in. Obviously some of the technical numbers side of things, I had that history a little bit, but even if I didn't, it was so drawn out and provided in detail. I could have, it was nice to learn again because I haven't done it since college. So it was nice to hear some of the stuff again, but I just went for it, and the marketing sections and building the business and all those things. And I just jumped right in and started trying to get the clients like it was suggested in the program.
And today, how many clients do you serve?
Oh man, I got about 26 clients, and a few of those have about 4 or 5 entities each. So, some of them are multi-entity clients. So, about 26 clients I work with directly.
Wow, that's tremendous.
Hmm.
And that's all happened in what time period? Year and a
Yeah.
half, 2 years?
So, yeah, December 1st, 2017, I officially began working for myself.
Okay,
And then, so yeah, we're, I guess,
not
17,
even a year and a
18
half.
months,
Just
a year and a half, roughly, pretty much. Yeah. And, but about a year is kind of when it all got that first client, which was my brother. He has a photography business, him and his wife, and he was my first client. So I always have to appreciate my first client. So he's always been there and offered to allow me to do his bookkeeping, which it was the best thing ever, he said. So he still is a client. But ever since then, I started after I was ready and had time to put into it. I just, probably February, March, April of 2018, I started just getting them, and it was kind of like a domino effect, really.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky, fortunate. I mean, I think there's luck involved with some things. It was hard work to get going, but some of the people that I brought on as clients, I have great relationships with, and which I think is what then led to the referrals, and they're sending me to their friends and their other businesses that they have, and things like that. So it's just been happening very quickly.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. You've done an amazing thing in a very short period of time, relatively. So if you guys want to learn more about Kevin, you can go to Books by Schmidt. That's SCHMIDT.com, booksbyschmidt.com. And you can see his website. Before we transition over, though, Kevin, who would you recommend Bookkeeper Business Launch to? What type of person?
Man, I I honestly don't know if I could put like one specific person to
What would you
that.
say the biggest attribute for you has led to your success? Is it that hustler mentality or is it something else?
But I mean, I say that. I mean, my success, I think, yeah, it's hustler mentality and just my work ethic. But I'm doing it, and I was looking for just a supplemental income, but I took it to a whole other level. So I think Bookkeeper Business Launch could be really for anyone in between, anyone that's just that has a full time job that maybe just wants to make a little bit of extra money on the side, and maybe they're not interested in leaving their full time job. They're completely happy, but they just want to dabble in something. Or for the person that wants to find a complete career, full time money, and everything out of it, it's available for them too. So I think it's from the smallest to the largest and everything in between. Moms, dads, single people. I
Yep.
mean, college kids. I mean, really, if you have
What about
the
Auburn
little bit of
fans?
knowledge,
Should Auburn fans?
I
What
think
do you
they
think about
can
them?
only do
Let's
stuff
don't
with
go there.
like, yeah, okay.
All the Auburn fans are going to be hating on us on this episode right here,
Got
so
it.
we will not go any further on that.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Now, let's do a little transition over here to the opportunity challenge that is in front of you. And
Sure.
I've actually got it typed out and written in front of me. So I know that you want to talk about, hey, I've got these processes, I've got chart of accounts, I've got access, I've got all these 26 clients and multiple entities. Like, how do I unify all that so that when I hire somebody or the person that I have with me, I can put it all together and make it such that they can do the work, kind of frame that up so that I make sure that I understand it and so does the audience.
Yeah, sure. So, the goal that I would love to do and to have and to obtain is to have somebody working for me and with me, and doing a lot of the jobs that I can send to them, because a lot of them maybe are just busy jobs or different things like that. Because I'd rather do the higher level management and higher level owner jobs, and getting business and out there and doing things. So, my background of working for a defense contractor, it was one company, and I went in there and I actually went through all their standard operating procedures, and read them all and edited them, and recreated stuff. And, I spent years working for one company, and doing their thing their way. And, now doing what I'm doing, um, there's not 26 different ways that we're doing things, but most of the clients that I am working with were already in business. They were already in business when I got brought on. So they already have their ways of doing certain things. Now, of course, the value that I add to a lot of them is bringing new things and bringing changes and helping them see different things, because a lot of them, some of them are just tunnel vision and only stuck in one way. But regardless, a lot of the times I have to do things their way. Chart of accounts are different for every company. Some of them use numbering chart of accounts, some of them don't. Everybody processes things differently. Checks and deposits and bank things, just everything. There's just so many different ways to do it for every single client, that I just have the challenge of trying to figure out the best way to tell myself how to do all those, but also mainly hire someone and say, I know there's 26 clients, I know there's 20 plus different ways of doing things, but here's the easiest way to do it, and the best method or process or checklist or whatever I can give them to hopefully do it with success. So I'm not cleaning up messes that because of my lack of instruction, was created basically.
Gotcha.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I feel your pain. I was right there with you. So for everybody at home or work, wherever that you are in your vehicle listening to this, if you want to go to ilovebookkeeping.com, you can get notes of what Kevin and I are talking about. I want to be sure to mention that because a lot of people are like, hey, I'd like to follow along in some sort of written way. And so you can go to ilovebookkeeping.com where we have all the shows and the notes. Okay, so after that commercial, Kevin, let's kind of dive into this. So let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions. Number one, do you have a niche?
I do not have a niche. No.
Okay. All right. So one of the advantages of having a niche, and you know all of this, right? So I'm preaching to the choir, but one of the advantages to having a niche is that it makes things more like kind, right? So if you're serving dentists, the procedures, the way that you do things, while not being static and 100% the same between clients, they're a lot similar. And so therein is a secondary or tertiary benefit of having a niche is that you can make your workflow a lot more efficient. So, every time we talk, I ask you that question and you still say no and you just don't get it, but that's okay. But, that would certainly help. But in all seriousness, that's one of the things that really helps you in that regard. Okay, so we don't have a niche. Are you planning to have a niche, or is this something you're going to be just open to general? Because it doesn't really matter. I mean, excuse me, it does matter. But when we talk about this process, I just want to make sure I understand where you're going.
I don't plan on having a niche.
Okay.
I plan on slowly, as I have been, I think since the last time we were meeting, getting rid of some of the big outliers that are time vampires and not worth it. And so there's always that possibility of growing into the niche, but currently I have no intentions of trying to just focus on one area.
Okay. All right. No worries there.
Sorry.
All right. No. That's your own funeral there. So that's okay. So, all right, let's think about this for just a second. So one of the things and we've talked about this several times on the show, is that we always think that people are our answer to having overwhelm at work, having too much to do, having no free time. And that certainly is part of the equation. But the first part of that equation starts with processes. Matter of fact, we just did, and I know that you have access to it. And after this, you'll go watch the Outstanding Processes and Procedures OPP that we did, where we dive into this deep. But one of the things that we have to do is we have to have well-documented processes that are universal to our business. So it doesn't matter what clients that we're doing, this is the process. And then we have processes that are client-specific or niche-specific. So I want you to imagine a hierarchy. So think about Maslow's hierarchy, right? And at the bottom, where the triangle is wide enough, by the way, a triangle is something that has three sides. I just want to make sure you understood that, Kevin. At the bottom of that, at the widest level, are the things that are most common between all clients. Okay, so this could be the software that you're using. It could be the way in which you get bank feed. It could be the way in which you categorize the expenses and income. It could be the way you submit payroll, all of these things that are pretty much the same. And this is the area in which we want to start to document and start to work on offboarding this to someone else. We want to start with the lowest hanging fruit. We want to start with the things that require the least amount of technical know-how. And so you know that I'm a big proponent of having a virtual assistant because they can do a ton, especially somebody who's trained and somebody who has a little bit of bookkeeping background. They're going to be able to do wonders for you. But what we have to do first is we have to be intentional about this. We have to think, all right, let me document everything that I do for client one. Okay. And then let me go and pick another one and let's document everything I do for them. And then let me document everything I do for 4 or 5. So say you take a sample, 20% of all your clients, and list out every single thing that you do. Okay, so this would be just like a one quick sentence, reconcile a bank account in QuickBooks Online. All right, and you can also go kind of to the side where you do this, what application that you use. What we're trying to do here is find the common threads for these 5 clients, or the sample. And this is you really stepping back from doing the work, because you said that, I know one of the things you said, that you feel like, hey, I should just do this work because it's quicker for me to do it rather than to explain to somebody else how to do this, when I could have done it in 5 minutes and it may have taken me 5 hours to train this person. While true in the short term, in the long term, we kind of miss out on stuff. Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
Okay. So what we're doing is we're finding that common thread. So let's say that there's 5 different activities that you do pretty much the same for all clients. Now, by the way, we're talking about a remedy, and then we're going to talk about a cure. Okay, so we're talking about kind of going back in time and fixing, but moving forward with new clients, we want to set up a new regimen to where this doesn't lend itself. There's always going to be uniqueness to every client, things that you have to do, but we want to make it less than 20% of the time involved, and 80% of the time is the same across all clients. But we're not going to get there overnight. And the one thing we got to start with is identifying those processes that are the most common. Once we do that, does that make sense in kind of what I'm talking about there in that? Okay. So it's like a task audit by client. And let's say that you come up with 12 different things, or 10, let's make a nice round number, 10 different things that you do that are common among all clients. What I want you to do then is to take those 10 and say, which is the easiest? Which is the lowest hanging fruit? All right. And what I mean by that is that, okay, yeah, this task right here among all clients takes me 7 minutes a month, 10 minutes a month. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but across 26 clients, it is a huge deal. All right. That's 4.5 hours nearly of your time. Do you have anybody working with you right now actively?
Not anymore. No.
Okay. All right. As I know, this is one of the challenges you were up against. You said, hey, this is probably faster for me just to do it all than.
Yeah. And going back to what you said, I mean, I brought on somebody that maybe didn't have that background, more so because I knew them and it was more of a relationship thing. So
sure,
I knew it probably would have been better off having somebody that understood the software a little better and understood some basic stuff. But I thought I was ready to just give them the list of things to do, but I ended up realizing, no, not a good idea. So
yeah, no,
I wasn't ready. Yeah.
Yeah, we live and learn, right? So going back to this task audit, we're finding those commonalities, and then we're ranking them in ascending order from easiest to most difficult. And once we have 2 or 3 activities identified that you're going, you know what, that takes me however much time a month to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first document that process. That's common among all my clients. Now, I know you'll say, well, none of them are all the same. That's fine, but you still do bank reconciliations for all clients. You still categorize expenses and income for all clients. You still produce financial statements for all clients. The way in which you do that, that's in the client-specific procedure that you'll record later on, but we're not even probably going to get there yet. So we're identifying these things, and I'm looking at that. And now what I want to do, okay, so we've identified the common things. We've said which one is easiest to most difficult that they all have in common. And now I want to think, number one, do I need to stop doing that? Okay. So the first things first, can I stop reconciling bank accounts? No, you cannot stop reconciling bank accounts. That's not a good practice as bookkeeping professionals. Sorry about that. Okay. So I cannot stop doing it. Okay. Well, can I improve this process? Well, yeah, there's more robust bank rules. There's ways in which I can get it in there. How much can I improve it? It may be negligible, but any improvement is fine. So there may be a little way to improve that. Is there a way to automate it? Okay. Is there a way for me to automate this right here? Yeah, there's a Zap for that, right? There's a Zapier app that will enable me to do this automatic. Great. I just saved a bunch of time. And then if none of those ring true, then what we say, okay, how am I going to outsource this? And I don't mean outsource in terms of offshore, anything like that. How am I going to take it away from my fingers and put it onto a team member's? And these should be things that a VA that is trained as a VA should be able to do, because these things are not rocket science. This is not doing a reversing entry. This is not having, multiple lines. These are more simple things. And the great thing about doing it underneath this way and getting a VA, one, it's going to maintain your sanity, because what you're doing is you're training yourself to think like a business owner, not think like the doer.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do this exercise, and you have to, when you're not in the midst of doing the client work, you have to get your brain in that mentality of how can I make this better? Think of it in a critical nature, not being critical towards yourself, but thinking of it like, how can I make this better? And always thinking that and setting aside that time. And then once you figure these things out, take one task, the one that you thought was easiest, the one that you could offboard, the one that you could train me to do in 5 minutes. You know, if you took me to a pizza buffet and gave me an incentive, I could learn this pretty quick. And that's the one that you want to send over to your VA first.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you train him or her on how to do that, now you can take the next easiest activity, and on down the line it goes. Now, does that make sense where we are so far?
It does. It does make sense. And I don't know if you can say it now or later, but any tips or recommendations for, just writing out those steps or writing out is that,
Absolutely.
as I've been doing, as you were saying, to start with the basic commonality tasks,
Mm-hmm.
but then when we get to the more details, is it literally just typing out page after page of
Nope.
steps? Or
Not unless you are a glutton for punishment. Here's what you do.
Exactly. So please.
All right. So you're already doing this work to begin with, right? You're pretty much doing everything.
Doing it all.
So when you find those things, next thing I want you to do is I want you to have a screen capture software that can record what you're doing on screen and your voice. And I want you to do that activity and walk me through it. Hey, this is Kevin, and we're going to walk through how we do a bank feed right now in QuickBooks Online. I'm going to do this. I go up here. You're talking default to more detail than less detail. If you think, hey, I don't have to say go up to file. No, say I'm going up to file, create, and there's a reason why that, and you'll figure that out here in just a second. But do the activity. So number one, you're doing the work, getting it done. Number two, you're just talking what you're doing. And after you get done, that could be a 2-minute recording. It could be a 20-minute recording. It's probably somewhere in between for most activities. Now what you do is you have an MP4, a video file, if you will. Now you're going to take that file and you're going to send it to rev.com or some transcription agency to get them to type out what you just said. Okay. Now it's going to be raw when you get it back, and rev.com does a great job. It's $1 a minute as of this recording. And it does cost some money, but hey, this is future sanity. And so it's definitely worth the investment. But we write that out. We get it written out, everything that we said. And now what we can do is we can take that and we can clean it up. So we have a written narrative that makes sense, because we may have said, hey, this goes up here, this goes up there. And by the way, this process, you can train your VA how to do this. Okay. But at first it's going to be you until you kind of figure it out. But now you have a written document, you've cleaned it up. So now I have a video where I can watch you do it. I have a file where you walk me through in words, so that when I'm giving this to people, somebody else, they learn different. Some people learn visually, some people learn by reading, some people learn, there's other ways of learning. I can't think of all of them right now, but there's a lot of different ways. And what you're doing is trying to fill all those gaps. So now I can go and watch what you just did. And unless there's some sort of major change in the application, then I can pretty much paint by numbers here. And I can follow along with the transcript that you've given me. And the final part of that is that you take that transcript and you turn it into a checklist. And inside the OPP, which you have access to, which now I've just spurred curiosity in everybody else, but in the outstanding processes and procedures, I give you the format for how to create a checklist. Just a little hint, it should be pretty darn small. It should fit on a large note card, like maybe say half a sheet of paper, half a 8.5 by 11. I got this from the Air Force days, where you make things very simple. It's not 18,000. If it's more than 10 steps, then you don't have a good checklist, or you have a process that's too robust and you need to split it up. But we're going to create a checklist from that. So now think about this. You bring a VA on and you say, hey, you're going to do this right here. Here's how you do it. I want you to watch this video. I want you to read the transcript, follow along with it, and then I want you to look at the checklist. Okay, do that. And now let's come back, and I want you to try and do it. Maybe you do this with them the first time to give them one more reinforcement. Maybe if it's easy enough and you're working with a smart VA, you just let them kind of run with it. And then they come back to you, and then you follow along and say, all right, did they do it how I showed them to do it? And there is your first process documented with a checklist, and it's a beautiful thing.
Makes sense.
Now, one of the things you just did there, though, is you created it as is. So one of the things we want to avoid in this is to go and say, oh, well, I need to change this right here, right there. No, we're documenting it now. But what this does also now that you're having somebody else do this, Kevin, here's the really added benefit. Now you take yourself out of doing it and you take yourself into the editor. You take yourself into how can I improve this role, because you're out of the weeds. And by the way, if you're working with a smart VA, you should charge her or him with doing the same thing. Hey, this is how we do it. But as you start to become more familiar with these activities, how can we do it better? How can we do it quicker? How can we serve our client more expeditiously through the processes, the procedures, the tasks, and everything that we do? Does that kind of shed a little bit of light?
Yeah, it does. And I guess some of the biggest during those processes and doing that, which, it's like, you know what you need to do, but it just helps to have somebody tell you sometimes again and again. And I think you've told me this before, so I probably should just listen to you this time and really do it. But,
I'm in that same boat, man.
If I could go into like weed control stuff here, let me just ask your advice. But while doing that and recording that and going through, let's just say the bank feed or whatever, when there's those transactions or that are they're very specific to that individual, almost like an outlier from the norm. I mean, is it just, since you're recording yourself, are you just saying like, asterisk, this is not the norm, so do this instead? Like, I guess how do you make it easily known or stand out that, for this client, for this type of, bank transaction, we have to do something different?
All right. So let's say that you're doing the exercise, doing the task in client 1, and they have that unique approach. They have that unique transaction or 2 or 3. So what you do is, as you're training it, you go, look, this is specific to this client. So please, when it comes to this type of transaction and it's client specific, make sure that you look at the client specific procedures that we have.
So just being detailed and just.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And saying to that one, if that one you don't see across multiple clients, then you don't want to go over in the training. You could go ahead and record it right there just so you get it knocked out, but just mention it. And then when you go, because we hadn't really talked about that, but then when you do a client specific training, which you don't really need to get there just yet, you need to start with this. But the client specific training should go, okay, now that you know the procedures, let's talk about the uniqueness of the bank feeds with client 1. Let's talk about the uniqueness of their payroll. And that should be pretty darn quick. It's just showing them, hey, for this one, you got to go log into this account. And here it is. And we've got the access control in LastPass, and you have that information so you can go and log in. But let's say I've logged into this special software, and now I've pulled these reports, and now I take that and then I put it over here into QuickBooks Online. I upload it like this, and that's specific for client 1. Okay. And so those videos for client specific, unless they're big, unless those clients are huge, they should be pretty short. They shouldn't take a lot of time. What should, be longer, what should be more comprehensive is the commonalities, the things.
Okay.
Now, I'll just tell you kind of in parting here is that, this is going to take time. It's going to cause more work at first.
Yeah.
Don't get frustrated, because it's one of those things where, it's like training camp in football. You hate those days. You hate 2-a-days, but come game time, it makes it a lot easier. And the same thing happens here. You're going to gain a lot of synergy and a lot of energy and a lot of, your time freeing up, and so think about it. It's kind of like what we talked about at the intensive last year. If you're able to do $100 an hour work and you can pay somebody to do $20 an hour work, you're going to make that arbitrage. You're going to be able to focus on what you need to focus on in your business instead of doing things that are not your special thing that you should not be doing.
Mhm.
For where you want to take this business, Kevin, you don't need to be doing these day in, day out stuffs eventually. I mean, you need to, with the number of clients that you have right now, I'm surprised that you still have any hair and that you're sane.
Yeah, that and watching my 10-month-old baby on a daily
Yes.
basis. So,
Man, I don't know how you do it, man, but I'm impressed. That's
maker's mark and things like that.
maker's mark. Not while watching the baby. That's
Oh
later after
no,
mama gets home.
that's
Let's just be
later.
clear on that.
That's
Okay.
later, of course. Yeah,
Yes.
she has
Yes.
my full attention when she's awake and not taking naps.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So let's do this. I don't like to give too much homework. I don't like to
sure.
give too much, right off the bat, because this right here would change the game. And obviously, inside of OPP, we go into that in detail. By the way, for those of you who are wondering about OPP, you can go to ilovebookkeeping.com and look at the courses page, and we've got it in there. All right. So let's talk about your action items, Kevin, as a result of this conversation today.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is put together some commonality tasks. Commonality, is that even the word? Is that
We'll
the
say it is.
Georgia
I think it
word, or
is.
is the
No, I
Alabama
think
word?
it applies to all the southern states. Yes, it's actually a word. Yes.
So I'm going to put some common tasks between all my clients down. And then I believe it's going to be start the screen share. I think I'm going to do, I think what you said and what I heard you say is the general practices of the software, and that with those common tasks, making the screen shares and sending those to Rev to create the documents for those common items that I can maybe create first, and then I'll go into each client and do client specific recording and transcripts.
All right. The only step I think in there is that you want to kind of order what's easiest. Do that after you find those commonalities there.
Find the commonalities and order what's easiest.
Yep.
And then begin filming and sending those off and preparing those documents and task checklists.
Now, I want you, because I know you have access before you do any of this, actually to go consume the OPP and consume Daniel's processes and procedures, because it's going to give you a huge head start.
I will.
But for everybody else listening at home that doesn't have access, which I can give you access.
Yes.
For a small fee.
And I would recommend it. I would recommend it for anybody.
No, but go in there and because that's really a shortcut, and that's what we're all after.
I will start that first, then on my action.
There you go.
And then I will go on to the things that we talked about.
All right. Awesome. Well, Kevin, anything else that we can cover here today in our few minutes left?
I don't think so, Ben. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the time. I'm grateful for the relationship that we've had this past year or so, and that we've created. It's been extremely beneficial to my business and everything that I'm doing. So thank you. And
you're welcome, man.
I'm constantly looking forward every other day to the next thing that we're seeing coming out of you guys. So I'm looking forward to constantly seeing all that stuff.
Yeah, I got to take a break. It's been a lot of stuff coming out here lately. So after this May intensive on marketing, I am taking a few weeks off to get my sanity back to me. But
sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Kevin Schmidt. And by the way, go to booksbyschmidt.com. That's SCHMIDT. That's how you spell Schmidt, not Books By, but you know how to spell Books By right there, or you can just type into the Google browsers, Kevin Schmidt, Kumbaya, or whatever he does right there with his, is it Kumbaya or something like that? Combi Keg. There we go.
It's an Australian thing, I think. So we're not too used to it over here, but we're getting it though. We're getting it.
How you pronounce that? Yeah, exactly. I got you. Listen, if you would like to hear more great conversations just like today's, then I want you to head on over to ilovebookkeeping.com. There, you're going to find all of the shows, the notes, and some other great goodies that we have for you there. Now, if you'd like to be a guest on the I Love Bookkeeping show, there is a link that says Be a Guest. Go in there, and we'll walk you through the process of getting on the show. And finally, to discover more about our programs, go to the courses page on the ilovebookkeeping.com site. There you have it, another great episode of I Love Bookkeeping. Thank you for being a proud listener, and thank you for being a bookkeeping professional. Enjoy the rest of your week.
I love bookkeeping. Here's a little shout to all my friends working hard at keeping the books. You want to change your life, you want to grow that biz, it's not as hard as it looks. Be a